Hello, good morning, good afternoon, or indeed good evening, depending on your time zone and depending on when you are watching this. It is Tuesday, the 9th of June, 2020. On this day in 1934, Donald Duck made his very first appearance in The Wise Little Hen. I'm James Innes, and this is my YouTube show, The Jobs Guru. I'm delighted to see you here for today's episode. I extend a very warm welcome to all those who have subscribed since the last episode. And if you haven't yet subscribed, please do think about subscribing so that you don't miss out on the next episode. In today's show, I'm going to be taking a look at the latest workplace, jobs, career and employment news. I will, as always, be covering a question from one of my viewers. I'll be talking about how to prove your value at work. And next, in the interview question series, I'll be asking, how many ways can you get a needle out of a haystack? Crikey. If you have any questions or comments as you watch, then do please let me have them below. And if you like what you see, then do please hit that YouTube thumbs up. First, as always, I've had a good read of all the main news headlines, and in particular the workplace, jobs, careers, and employment-related headlines. I so wish I had some good news to report, but there really isn't any. I know the newspapers generally seem to prefer bad news anyway, but what with the current coronavirus crisis and its devastating impact in particular on employment, I just can't see any good news anywhere. The biggest employment news has to be BP's announcement, covered by my friends and colleagues at BBC News, as BP to cut 10,000 jobs as virus hits demand for oil. And this could just be the start. The UK's oil and gas industry has previously warned that 30,000 jobs could be lost as a result of the coronavirus pandemic and the low oil price. In many ways, the way I feel about this story is similar to how I feel about, for example, when British Airways told its workers to accept pay cuts of up to 60% or face the sack. I'm a big fan of the government's furlough scheme, and I do feel it is very sad that some companies have nonetheless laid off large numbers of staff in situations where they really might have been able to avoid doing so. In BP and BA's case, though, I really can't see that they have much alternative than to do what they are doing. The furlough scheme may have been extended to the end of October, yes, but it could be years before the aviation sector recovers fully, if indeed it ever does. And BP's chief exec, Bernard Looney, told staff the oil price has plunged well below the level we need to make a profit. We are spending much, much more than we make. I am talking millions of dollars every day. Now, I know it's very tough indeed on the staff in question. I'm really very sorry for them, but the reality is that either these companies do this and they try to survive, or they don't. There is only so much the furlough scheme, or indeed the government in general, can do to protect companies and save jobs. British sandwich maker Adderley Foods collapsed last week with the loss of 2,000 jobs. We're pretty devastated as an industry and probably will be into next year, said Jim Winship, the director of the British Sandwich and Food to Go Association. British luxury handbag maker Mulberry has just announced plans to cut a quarter of its workforce. The company said yesterday that social distancing measures combined with reduced demand from shoppers and fewer overseas visitors to London would continue to hit sales even once stores reopen. But what is the solution? Indeed, is there a solution? Last week, Prime Minister Boris Johnson was apparently warned by the Business Secretary, Alok Sharma, that failure to reopen the hospitality sector in time for the summer could cost up to 3.5 million jobs. Boris reportedly just replied, "Christ," as reported in the Sunday Times. The solution? The government is apparently now trying to bring forward the reopening of England's pubs and restaurants by a fortnight. Chancellor Rishi Sunak is apparently amongst half a dozen ministers calling themselves the Save Summer Six, seeking to accelerate the reopening of the economy on this front and others. But then, of course, we have scientists warning, worried that lifting lockdown too early will risk a resurgence of COVID-19 infections. Undoubtedly it does. But is it either that or have the economy fall off a cliff edge? These are massive decisions. So it's not just about saving jobs now, is it? It's about creating jobs, and it's about supporting the rapidly rising ranks of the unemployed as best as we can. As a country, we must dedicate the necessary time and support to setting up proper support for them. This is an unprecedented situation, and the unemployed, they need all the help they can get as they try desperately to get themselves back into work. They need help with determining their options, deciding how to go about their job hunt, identifying how best to sell themselves, whether it's in their CV or on LinkedIn, and coaching to help them subsequently excel at interview. And obviously, if you find yourself in this most unfortunate situation, then we're here to help at jamesinnes.group. Finally, in the last episode, I quoted a headline from the Daily Mash. America warns that when UK quits Europe, it will probably invade. Now, following some confusion on the part of one of my viewers, I should just like to point out that the Daily Mash is a satirical website which publishes spoof articles, i.e. it is all made up and is not intended in any way whatsoever to be taken as factual. I just thought I should make that quite clear. So, on to that question from one of my viewers. Today's question has been sent in by Jimmy in Liverpool. He says, "Dear James, what are your best tips for negotiating a pay rise? I've been working for the same company for a few years now, and I feel that I'm working harder than my job description entails. Personally, due to rising rents and living costs, I struggle to live within my means, and I have a suspicion that those around me in similar roles are on a higher salary. What's the best way to discuss this with my employer, and are there any tried and tested techniques that are effective? How do I inquire about the salaries of my colleagues and whether I'm in line with them or not?" Okay, well, Jimmy in Liverpool, everything you say points towards the fact that you should, yes, definitely be asking for a pay rise. There's certainly no shame in it. You're working hard and you're struggling financially, and you have that sneaky suspicion you are perhaps underpaid relative to your colleagues. There is no way you should ask your boss or bosses about your colleagues' salaries, though, and they're really not that relevant in any case. This is about you, not them. You could, however, consider asking one of your more of your colleagues directly. I actually did some research on this recently, which revealed that whilst almost precisely 50% of people don't feel it's professionally acceptable to discuss salary with colleagues, almost precisely 50% think it's just fine. So, your call. Nothing ventured, nothing gained. Anyway, asking for a pay rise is all about timing, tact, and diplomacy. Try to wait for the right moment, a time when your contribution to the company is going to be seen in the best possible light. Being a somewhat delicate matter, a lot also depends on how precisely you phrase your request. My advice here is that whilst it's good to be firm and persuasive, you should definitely avoid coming across as demanding. Prove your value, and the ball is then firmly in their court. I'm always open to interesting new questions from my viewers. If you've got a workplace, jobs, careers, or employment-related question for me, then do please type it into that comment section below, and I may well feature it in a future episode of this show. And if I do, then regular viewers will know that, one of my limited edition collector's item JobsGuru coffee mugs will be yours. More prized than a blue Peter badge. Okay, each day, as well as answering one viewer's specific question, I also look into a specific issue which has been raised by a number of different viewers. And today I'm shining my spotlight on how to prove your value at work. It does follow quite neatly on from Jimmy's question. With job losses mounting, I'm increasingly being asked by people what they can do to prove their value to their employer. Essentially, you need to demonstrate to your employer the contribution you make to their organisation over and above their core expectations. You need to demonstrate what you've achieved. You need to demonstrate what you're really worth. What progress have you made? What value do you add to the organisation? What examples can you cite to back up your claims? Now, the answers to these questions will be different for everyone. You need to think through your own answers clearly and concisely. Finally, yes, some of you may think it should be blatantly obvious to your boss what you've achieved, but don't count on it. Now, as well as heading up James in this group, I am also the UK's best-selling careers author, and amongst my titles is the Interview Question and Answer book. It is, of course, available in all good bookshops, or if you'd like a signed copy from yours truly, then there's a link in the description of this video. In each episode of my YouTube show, I'm taking questions from that book and looking at how to answer them. At the moment, I'm taking those questions from the chapter entitled Weird and Wonderful Questions, probably my favourite chapter. Today's question: how many ways can you get a needle out of a haystack? Similar questions include, how many ways can you find a lost ring on a sandy beach? And as someone who has lost a ring before on a sandy beach, I can tell you it's not easy. Back to the question at hand: how many ways can you get a needle out of a haystack? Well, the credit for inventing this question actually goes to a bank. It tests your general knowledge of science, as well as your common sense and your ability to think big, remain level-headed, and not be thrown by the question itself. So how to answer? Well, as regular viewers will know, don't get fazed by the weird and wacky nature of the question, okay? Knuckle down some logical thinking here. To begin with, abandon the idea of actually just looking for the needle within the haystack. Think how technology and science could help you out here. What would happen if you burned the haystack down? If there was a storm, water, magnetism, what if all the hay was eaten by a very large donkey? There may well be several other methods as well. Use your imagination. Now, as always, I have plucked a little example from my book for you. I could try a really large magnet to pull the needle out, maybe get hold of a wind machine to blow the hay away, a water tank to put the hay in and I find the needle at the bottom, perhaps burn the hay and sift through the ashes. If I had plenty of time, I could guide a herd of cows to the haystack and have them eat the lot, then wait for the needle to emerge or one cow to collapse. Then there's always the possibility of using a metal detector. Show them your thought processes. That's what it's about. Thinking outside of the box, creativity, imagination. Now, I'm currently updating this book, working on a brand new edition. It's the 3rd edition. If you've got any questions which you think I should be considering for possible inclusion, do please let me know in the comments section below. And obviously, if I use your question, I'll be sending a signed copy of that off to you. So now, not far from the end of today's show, I'll be back tomorrow, Wednesday. Remember, this show is Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday each, and almost every week. Just 2 more things. First of all, do please check me out on social media and connect, follow, or otherwise stalk me, but please don't troll me. If you've got any questions or comments about this episode, about the show in general, indeed about life, the universe, the restoration of antique ivory, whatever, do please let me have them below. If you like this episode, then maybe consider a thumbs up. Do think about subscribing. If you subscribe, then remember to ring that bell so you can receive notifications when I upload new episodes. And if you've done all of that, well, XOXO. Finally, what's happening in the next episode? On Wednesday's show, I'll be chatting about a variety of things, including, next in the interview question series, would you rather fight a horse-sized duck or 100 duck-sized horses? Blimey. I do hope you'll tune in. Thank you for watching today. Keep safe and be well, my friends. Goodbye.